Hospital. Call this meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance, led by Ryan Crush. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, please silence your cell phones if you will.
Second.
Adding an item?
With the one addition of CD 77 lateral 2 bids on a drainage authority.
Okay.
I'll move it as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda? Get a chance to look it over?
Move the consent agenda.
Motion second, any discussion?
I don't think you had a second yet.
Second.
I thought he did.
Oh, sorry. I heard it, saw I had Bob, but not a voice.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Public appearances. Looks pretty absent. Finance. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm here today to present the Q3 donations received in Nicollet County. We have veteran services and loan closet donations during this period, totaling $545. And I'm looking for acceptance of these donations.
I'll move the resolution, or I'll move adoption of the resolution approving acceptance of the donations.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? So, it's a resolution. Call the roll, please.
Morrow,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Lipke,
Yes.
Drano,
Yes.
Fullers,
Yes. Passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seth, you're up. I got quite an echo here. Am I too close to this?
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna try to unplug my microphone. That
Just hit the
comes-
button, Michelle.
It still remains live.
Sure.
Set it on the floor then.
Morning, Seth.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board and staff. A couple items from Public Works today. The first being to consider award of quote for the CASAD 21 temp slope remediation project. And I've talked on this topic several times at previous board meetings. This project involves temporary slope repair work on County Road 21 near the intersection of County Road 21 and 14. Due to many years of the Minnesota River being very high and saturating the subgrade of County Road 21 and the slope adjacent to the river dropped significantly finally earlier this summer, which allowed some of that material to slough off and into the river, which impacted the eastbound lane of County Road 21, which required us to close that lane to traffic. So right now, County Road 21, that area for about 100 feet is down to one lane. People have to take turns using that one lane. And so we have been working with SRF and Gale Tech Engineering to develop a temporary slope repair plan. We went and solicited quotes last week, and yesterday we received 3 quotes and we opened those up. Only 2 of the quotes were responsive. The 3rd quote did not submit all the required materials that we asked for in that quote submission. Right before the board meeting started, I handed out the bid tabulation with the results of the 2 quotes that we accepted. And Mathewitz Construction was the low quote submitter at $189,276.54 for this work. This project is anticipated to be part of a federal highway emergency relief project. This is just the first stage in that whole project. And so the temporary project will remove the sloughed out material, replace it with large crushed riprap to restore the slope and get the eastbound lane of County Road 21 open for the winter. This temporary project will then buy us time to develop a permanent fix for the problems that we're having on County Road 21, which that project could take place either late next year or the following year. So my recommendation to the board today is to award the low quote for the 21 temp slope remediation project to Mathewitz Construction. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions on this.
So Seth, if we do nothing, is there a chance it'll just keep working over and get the other lane?
Yep, the road is, we're starting to see small cracks developing in the eastbound lane that's currently closed. So if we continue to do nothing, I imagine that eastbound lane will eventually fall into the river also, and will probably impact the westbound lane, which will fully close County Road 21 at that point. One thing I'll throw out here for this temporary emergency project, Federal Highway contributes typically 100% of federal funds for the emergency project, as long as you get it done within 6 months of the disaster declaration date, which they're setting as, I believe, June 18th. So if we get this done before December 18th, this should be 100% covered by federal highway funds.
Mathewitz have the capacity to get that done in the...
Yes, they're sitting right there at County Road 14 working on that project, and they're chomping at the bit to start on this project. They have all the equipment
More questions
to
for
do
Seth?
this.
I'd move acceptance.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? More questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you, Seth.
The second item I have is to consider a snow and ice removal agreement with the city of New Ulm. I typically come here every year at this time to request approval of this agreement with the city of New Ulm. The agreement provides that the city of New Ulm will provide snow and ice removal on our piece of County Road 37 that abuts with the city street. This works out very well, as County Road 37 is kind of separate from the rest of our system. But there are times that we also provide some additional plowing when winter weather conditions are very severe out there. This partnership has worked very well with the city of New Ulm. The monthly rate for the agreement is $520 a month, and it's for December, January, February, and March. So I ask the board today to approve the snow removal agreement with the city of New Ulm.
I'll move it.
Motion and a second. What if it snows in the other months? Then we take care of it?
We may take care of it, the city may take care of it. I think they plowed it when we had that snow,
Okay.
so, yeah.
Any more questions? Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes. Thank you, Seth.
You wanna give an update on the bridge?
Yes,
I can give
please.
a project update. The County Road 21 bridge project, we were able to open the road middle of last week to regular traffic. The detour is being pulled, so getting one more last week of very nice weather allowed us to do the striping out there. So we're very excited to have that project finally open to traffic. County Road 14 slope project has been progressing very, very well. Mathewitz is making more progress than even they anticipated or even I anticipated. It sure helps to have beautiful weather like we've had. That being said, there is still a lot of work to be done, and we're not going to be able to finish all that yet this year. We'll get majority, if not all, of the reinforced soil slope built. We may get some of the class 5 put on the road, but it's gotten much too cold to take out and replace curb and gutter and do any of that concrete work and do any of the bituminous work. And we need to complete all those items to be able to put the guardrail in to allow, traffic to be placed back on County Road 14. Making all this progress this fall just means that we got less work to do next spring when we can get back on this project. But very happy at how the process is going and the amount of work that they've been able to complete. County Road 12, we are waiting on settlement recommendations from Braun to then move forward with the next 3 feet of fill that needs to go into the surcharge area. After that, the next 3 feet is able to be placed, there will be probably 3 to 4 feet to finish out getting to that max surcharge height. So I anticipate that either by late November into December, we may be able to place that last lift of material, but it's definitely going to be getting late in the year, and with winter approaching, more than likely we will, once we have that constructed, we will close that area off to traffic for the winter. But that project has come along very well this year too.
Mr. Chair, can I ask Seth a question? Can you put surcharge on top of snow if it's sitting there? Or
They'll just blade off the snow if we need to put more material yet on top.
if there's frost in the ground already, can they put it on there? Or
Yeah,
they can do
yeah,
it?
yep, no, that'll be just fine.
It would probably rethaw after you did it, I would.
Yeah, and the material that that Mathewitz has been using for the surcharge material is the same crushed quarry man sand that we're using on the County Road 14 project. So that material is extremely dry, essentially, and so even when we get cold temperatures, it doesn't start to freeze because there isn't a whole lot of moisture contained in it. So yeah, we anticipated that it could be, into early January, depending on how each stage would settle to get to that max surcharge height. So
Does the water flow easier through the manufactured sand than it does through Class 5?
oh boy, I don't know. I haven't seen any testing data on
Well,
flow
it's
rates
almost
through
like
that
tiny
material.
chicken grit is what it is, right?
Yeah. Depends on your class 5 on how many very small fines that you would probably
Okay.
have in that material. Water would probably flow through the manufactured sand product easier than class 5.
Any more questions for Seth? Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Seth.
Yep.
Ryan, I guess you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One item here today is to request CARES Community Partner Funding. I've attached information and a related resolution to provide CARES funding for the Nicollet County Agricultural Society, also known as the Fair Board, and the Nicollet County Historical Society. Both of these entities have been closed or partially closed since March due to the pandemic, and both have experienced significant decreases in revenue while still experiencing expenditures. Attached the CARES Community Partner Funding Program information, which recommends funding each of these entities $25,000, which is what the board approved in your preliminary budget back in August for CARES funding. The attached information also includes the federal treasury guidance that authorizes payment to these entities. You'll notice in the information what I did in this situation is I used similar criteria as we did for the business grants, where the entity had to either be shut down fully or partially due to governor order and experience a reduction in revenue of 25%. You'll see there that the Ag Society has experienced a 66% reduction in revenue, and the Historical Society 37% when you back out restricted donations that they get. So I would recommend that the board approve the attached resolution that provides funding for both of these entities.
I'll move the resolution.
I'll second it. I have a couple of corrections to make.
Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You can thank my mother for this. Spelling under be it further resolved, spelling of Nicollet. Second, be it further resolved, spelling on Nicollet. Those are the ones that jumped out on me. I know they're just typos, but we want to make
I think
sure.
there's,
that we get that
I think there's
right.
one under whereas
I
also.
don't know why spell check doesn't.
Whereas
Yeah,
there's
we'll
significant is not correct also.
We'll put a new,
You can review those again.
We'll do a new
So,
copy.
Spell check. And then further, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go,
if you don't
Jack.
mind. So we have learned on part of vehicle that was going to be used, Ryan, and stored at the fairgrounds?
The trailer?
Right.
Correct, that's been purchased already, the public health and, public safety trailer,
Right.
has been purchased and I believe is already in storage out there.
It's in secure storage.
Yeah, I believe the doors are locked.
Do you know, Louis, or you heard?
Yeah, I think they lock the doors for all the, cause they do, storage for boats and trailers out there.
And the grounds are locked. People can't access the grounds anymore, nilly-willy.
Really?
Yeah, they've got the gates
Gates are
locked too.
locked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So, yes, Terry?
Ryan, this is gonna be nitpicking, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Given what our county numbers are looking like on this virus, things are closing because of a virus. They're not closing because of a governmental act.
Correct.
I just wanna be real clear, and I think the resolution says that correctly, that it's a pandemic that's causing.
Yeah, I said the governor's orders, obviously those governor's executive orders are pandemic related, right? Correct, yes.
Okay. Any other, yes, Michelle?
Mr. Chair, I would just note for the Ag Society that despite their limitations on what they're able to offer for revenue generation, they have remained to be good community partners in opening the fairgrounds for food distribution. They also allowed us to use the Johnson Hall for distribution of backpacks. So they have remained good community partners, and I'm certainly grateful for that willingness to serve as community partners, even though they're struggling to meet their own expenses. Thank you.
And if I might, I would just add the recycling event that we held out there.
Okay, yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And it could be a future testing site, if need be.
Potentially.
I mean, let's face it, this isn't over.
Okay. More questions? Otherwise, we'll call the roll.
Morrow?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
Lipke?
Yes.
Briano?
Yes.
Polar?
Yes.
Passes.
I can provide just a quick update as well on the CARES funding. As you know, we need to officially have the funds spent by the end of this month. On the business grants, round one, we ended up funding 69 businesses for a total of $609,000. Round two, we currently have 21 applications requesting $143,000. And I'll provide details on that when that's closed out. So total, if you combine all of that, that would be 90 businesses funded for $742,000. So I think that's a good good turnout we had of requests, and we got, I know for a fact we got money into the hands of folks that really needed to keep their businesses going. So, and many were very appreciative to the board for providing it. The school grants that we're providing, the applications are due today, and I am hearing from both public and private on that, and some have already turned theirs in. So I'll be working on that over the next week to finalize that. Our community resiliency grant program, which provided funding for mental health, chemical dependency, and housing partners that we essentially contract with, or they provide services for us. We didn't get that big of a response back from them, from those partners, but we did get a request from the Hoffman Center here in town, and I believe we're funding them for about $18,000. And then the Partners for Affordable Housing, we're providing $21,000 of funding for them. And both entities certainly appear that they can use those funds and have been impacted by the pandemic. Our health and safety supply program that provides PPE to, essentially we opened it up to anybody, closed on the 6th. And our child care and crisis funding is still open through this week. We're trying to get everything kind of wrapped up here, final expenditures on the county side, so Heather and her team can close out the books. We are getting funds back already from some of the townships. Those checks start trickling in. Both of our larger cities, St. Peter, North Mankato, will be using all their funds. I do anticipate getting some funds back from our smaller cities. I'm estimating between $200,000 to $250,000 back from the townships and small cities that we in turn can spend under qualified expenditures, under the treasury guidance by the end of the month. And I do anticipate, well, we will spend all of the allotment that we were given under the treasury guidance. We'll be able to spend all those funds.
That would include the increase in township payments also?
Those funds as well. When the treasury, finally made their last determination on payroll reimbursement, that, provided a lot more flexibility, for entities to, retain funds for those purposes. I think that's why North Mankato and
Sure.
St. Peter were able to use their final allotments as well for public safety purposes.
Terry, you had a question?
Well, if this may be the appropriate time, I thought we'd just at least touch base on what the numbers are happening in Nicollet County. You know, we've received correspondence about this. This relates to Ryan's report. And I, for one, it may be, I know Health and Human Service staff are tremendously busy. It may be appropriate to have a conversation about the state of things and where we think things may be heading.
Right,
in
yeah, I saw that letter this morning. We couldn't get people to organized, this quickly, but I think next week for the workshop for sure, we'll provide some update.
And I think that would be good. I think that the community should know about the dramatic increase that we're seeing in the county and in other parts of the state and the nation. But I think we owe it to the residents to know that the steps that they're gonna hear about reflect in part what we're seeing in our own county. And I don't know whether that data was public data or not, so I'm not gonna get into the data.
I don't know where the final numbers are.
Yes,
Yeah.
but there, I think it's fair to say a significant increase over the last month.
For sure.
And that just leads me to one point that's arisen in other conversations I've had. Testing is really going to be important. I know that we've talked about testing at congregate living. I think we've talked about testing at places like Gustavus. We're seeing this before college students go home, making sure for Thanksgiving, making sure who's positive and who's not. We're also gonna see a need to test at schools, I think. We're gonna hear more about that this week, about saliva tests for students and for staff. One of the challenges that the state's going to have is that, whether they can get the test done at regional sites like at Gander Mountain and Mankato, or whether they're gonna have to bring testing directly to the schools. And I just raise that because I could see a possibility that counties could be asked to help support school site testing in the next month or two. Understanding that we may well have expended the money, but we still may get that released.
Right, who knows what will happen in Congress now, but I anticipate additional funding coming from the federal government at some point. The board, the monies that we will retain for salary reimbursement also will be available to the board as essentially additional funding to use in the future, however you see fit. And for virus-related expenses, certainly seems to be would be a logical use of those funds.
And
If we need to.
And I'll just be able to say, folks, we have to mask up, we have to do
Right.
hand sanitizing, social distancing, because our county numbers are in the wrong direction.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, maybe this is a tough question for you to answer because of your relationship with school boards, et cetera. But keeping schools open without going to the distance, to me is like, what are they waiting for?
And I'll try to keep this really brief. The challenge when it comes to our K-12 schools is that when kids are sent home, there are still transmission problems in the community, but we don't have the kids in their masks from 8 to 3 in an environment where they're getting fed and they're being taught, and we know that there's educational loss, especially for students who already face educational challenges when we send the kids home to learn. Distance learning doesn't work well for everyone, especially for the elementary kids, and that's why you'll see schools are trying to keep the elementary kids first and foremost in the school building, even if the older kids have to go out of the school building. Folks feel differently about this virus. They feel differently about the steps that are needed to protect the community and themselves from the virus. So the demands on whether we're in person or not for schools is really a tough, and I think the word that they're using is surgical decision-making. Does St. Peter North go to distance learning because there's an outbreak in North, but the middle school can stay in session in person? And those are really difficult decisions to make. Another challenging fact, and I think we're gonna hear about this today at 2 o'clock, is the 18 to 34-year-old population that seems to be the challenge in terms of spreading the virus
Yep.
in our communities. That's not equally true, but it's also true for our K-12 population. They may be asymptomatic. They often are asymptomatic. No one knows that they're ill, but they can pass along the virus to other folks who then develop a positive case. So, Jack, you're absolutely right. It's a balancing act to figure out whether to do with our schools. And I just want to take maybe to close this. Our county public health staff has been fantastic. When I look at counties around the state and the work that they're doing with their local schools, I have nothing but wonderful things to say about Cassie and her team. The support they've been providing to not only our schools but everyone else really is exemplary when I see what's happening across the state.
And as a rejoinder, I know from when I visited with Cassie and people in the health department, they are encouraging our county schools and our neighbors to really consider to take those steps that would prevent this spread, but the schools have the balancing act.
If I might, Jack, and I'm sorry, Mr.
Go
Chair.
ahead.
I know the St. Peter School Board moved up its board meeting from next week to tonight. I think they're looking at the local county numbers and the other surgical type of information. Jack, I would not be surprised to see a decision made in light of our rising county number.
Anybody else? Ryan, you have anything else?
No, that's it for today, thank you.
Okay, I guess we're down to the chair's report. So, I went to 3 ditch meetings, one a week ago tomorrow, I guess, in Gaylord with Marie. The AMC Zoom meeting. Got a letter from Minnesota Pollution Control about the grant for Tri-County Waste. Good marks, I guess, for Al and his crew. Went to the Lafayette City Council meeting last night. The election was a week ago today, and I guess I slipped by and I'll be coming back. Thank you for everybody's encouragement and advice, and especially thank you to the North Mankato Commissioners, Denny and Jack, for apparently your kind words got me 60% North Mankato.
Oh.
So thank you, Jack. Okay, Terry, you have a report?
Yes, I also, AMC Zoom meeting in Sidley County, the Joint Ditch 1 meeting. AMC continues to have DHS Zoom meetings around the state to come up with legislative priorities. And I think there was a public health call within the last couple weeks, but I don't recall. I may be wrong about that.
Yes, there was. Yeah, I think so.
Thank you, Terry. Denny?
I shared time with you on the joint AMC calls. I'm also participating in the education and training component of AMC, and did a one-on-one with additional statewide commissioners, so that was kind of an interesting experience. MRCI, I had the executive meeting with them yesterday, and just as a report to you on that, MRCI is coming back strong. They're finding ways to provide services. Some things have changed there. Financially, they're in exceptionally good shape compared to what we first anticipated with them. And we're starting to see some of the access to the clients opening up with our new numbers increases. That again may change, but MRCI has been working hard to stay ahead of that curve, and also we can't do the congregate care we once did, so it's going to be a different animal. There's going to be a new MRCI. It's going to look different, but that's the reality of how we do business these days and to provide services. So I'm very proud of the work they're doing and just wanted to share that with you.
Okay, Marie?
I also attended the AMC Zoom gig. I was in Gaylord and got to drive on the newly opened 111 Speedway, raise the speed limit, lovely. Union negotiations with the LES and probation. Attended some city chamber Zoom meetings of which public health took place, so we were trying to envision the future of retailing. That's about it.
Jack?
Thank you, Commissioner. We had the TDS, Traverse Sioux meeting. Maria and I are on labor negotiations, as she mentioned, with 2 meetings the past week. Our Mankato Area Planning Organization met on the 5th. We're all part of District 7, and then today's County Board. And Mr. Chair and members, if you'll allow me the opportunity to just say thanks to our county election office on behalf of our residents in Nicollet County, and in the name of the County Board of Commissioners, I'd like to extend gratitude and thanks to the County Election Office, Jackie and her staff, all employees and those who worked to recruit and train our election judges. The 2020 election cycle, as we all know, created many challenges for our citizens, for our residents who voted early and who voted by mail, but the day of voting looked pretty peaceful. And our election office made provisions to add more people to take care of the folks, and the process worked to the tune of 18,640 residents. I'm sure Jackie will have updated voter numbers. And it worked very well, it seemed, in every precinct in Nicollet County. And really, I know many of you probably did the same thing, but I went to 3 of our precincts in my neighborhood on election day to thank the folks who volunteered their time to serve their county, to serve their state, and to serve their nation. It gave me a really good feeling about the future of our country. And so on behalf of our county board and our staff, I just want to thank for all those involved in this very important democratic process of voting. And in addition, I'd like to congratulate Denny and John and Marie on their elections.
Thank you. Very, very well said, Jack, and I think we all agree with your comments, Jackie and our staff. Yes, Terry?
I was going to suggest that.
Yes.
We asked Jackie to come up and maybe give us an update, and also to be formally recognized with our appreciation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. It feels really good to be here after this is all done. I do have some updates, and then I'll have an opportunity for you to ask questions on kind of what's going on now. Still, even though the election part of it is done, we're still wrapping up and doing lots of things in our office. So you probably saw a lot of the voter statistics, the turnout. We were at 91%. We had 19,197 total votes. It's 91%, but just remember, when I calculate 91%, that's of registered voters. I think it sometimes gets confusing when you saw this on the news that the statewide was like 78 and think, wow, that's really low. But they calculate on eligible voters. So there's just a play on numbers there. They have access to how many people are eligible. I really don't. So at the county level, we just usually just keep it simple and do it on registered voters. And then, so one of the big statistics is that about 60% of all those votes came through the county. So that means that 11,290 voted here or mailed their ballot in. So we processed those. Only 7,907 went to their poll places, and that was North Mankato, St. Peter, and the 2 small cities. So the emphasis was here in voting early and here. So some of the things that we're going to have to look at before the next election is trends in the system. And I've been tracking this since 2014, since it went to the no excuse absentee voting, to see where we're at. We started out at 7% of the votes, then we went to 14%, then we went to 25, now we're at 60. Will this trend continue to stay at that way? Are we going to continue to people wanting to vote early? If in fact that's the way we think, we're gonna have to reconsider maybe opening up some service centers. St. Peter people would vote somewhere in St. Peter, North Mankato would vote early in North Mankato. We would probably serve all the mail ballots and the small cities. So we'd kind of break that up a little bit. I knew the trend would always go up. Did I think it would go up like this? No. So I feel like we were kind of a bit unprepared for that, but we prepared very quickly with extra staff and we got through it. But if this is gonna be a trend, we're gonna have to really look at the way we kind of do business here. So we have some time for that. So the state gave us, typically we had, years ago, we could start opening absentees the day of election.
Right.
And then when they went to the no excuse absentee voting, they granted us 7 days before the election to start the opening process. And now this year, because of the pandemic and the more votes, they granted us 14 days. We needed every single one of those 14 days. That isn't as easy as slice it open and throw a ballot in. That ballot gets touched so many times before it actually goes into the counter. We averaged about 1,000 to 1,300 ballots a day that we could process. And so with, almost 12,000 ballots, we needed all those 14 days because Sundays we didn't work. We worked on Saturdays too, but that didn't include all the people coming in too. So luckily the state granted us those 14 days, so I feel bad for those states that are in the news right now that couldn't start opening until the day of, because we still may be having groups ripping and opening and verifying and finally feeding them in. So I understand where they're at on that, and that doesn't even include anything that was postmarked after. So speaking of postmarked after, the appeals did reverse that, saying that they had to be in on election day, but it was to go back to the district court for final decision. So what we're doing now is accepting those ballots, we're opening them, feeding them in, updating the state's website. If in fact there's an overturn on that, that's only for the president's race only, so we would reverse those out. All the other races still do count. And to date, and there was no mail today, we had 21 ballots that came in afterwards, so it's not very large. Everybody got their ballots in. The mail was very small, so we've added 21 ballots to it, and we've had to segregate those ballots in the event that we have to remove those for the presidential race. So today is the cutoff for that. So later today, after 3 o'clock, we'll start we have been doing proofing, but we'll do our final proof to get ready for canvassing on Friday at 1 o'clock. So we canvass on Friday, the state canvasses on the 24th. So that's important to Nicollet County because we have a recount in Nicollet County pending on the Jeff Brand and Susan Ackland race. So that can't be determined until after state canvassing on the 24th. And then the losing or the person behind has to request that, and then if it's less than 50%, half a percent, I'm sorry, it's a government funded. If it's over the 50, half a percent, they are footing the bill, that person is. So we won't know for sure on that recount until after the 24th, and then we'll get directions on the state. But that's our entire county, so the recount is not exciting, but we will probably be doing that. So there is another recount, and we'll determine that after canvassing in North Mankato for city council. There's 2 there. So we'll be working on that as well. So it's the election that doesn't end. This board, thank you to the board for all your support. Thank you very much. This boardroom worked awesome for our early voting. I felt like we were luckier than any of our surrounding counties because we had a great place for it. We weren't running out of our office. We weren't running out of a hallway. We were secure. We were safe. There wasn't much to complain about. So it was a really good spot. So thank you for allowing us to use this boardroom. and all the other departments, property service, the assessment department, maintenance, the IT department, Michelle's office, just tons of support from every department to make sure that this gets done and that we got all the processes done. So it was a great team effort by this whole county. So thank everybody for that. I think that's all I have. Does anybody have questions?
Was it really busy here on Tuesday?
So Tuesday changed a little bit because the only people that could come here on Tuesday were mail ballot precincts, because there was no more per se absentee, because absentee quit the day before at 5 o'clock. So in a sense, we were still busy, but not at all like Friday, Saturday, and Monday. Monday we had lines to the old courthouse, down the steps again, and almost to Michelle's office. Yeah, was it past your office at times? Okay. Yeah. So we were trying to control those crowds, making them still 6 feet apart, making sure they can vote. I did not hear a lot of complaining about waiting. Yeah, those were our crazy days. Mm-hmm.
The weather was nice.
The weather was great. That was on our side. You know, the only thing that could have, really ruined this is if we had a snowstorm like today. That would have been on top of everything else. So no, we had a great weather. Everybody was able to vote. Our poll places ran smoothly. Jack kind of talked about North Mankato. We prepared for about every scenario possible, with not only the cities, the law enforcement, anything that could go wrong, we prepared for, and luckily we didn't need it. So.
Did I understand you right? If these mail-in late, the ones that came in the last 6 days, they could get counted for the president, but they wouldn't like for the Jeff Brand?
No, they do get counted for the appeals order was only for the president.
Oh.
So all other races count.
Okay.
Anything that was postmarked. So the Jeff Brand, Susan Acklin will be counted.
Okay.
We'll even at this point still be counting the president's race until we get notification to remove those, if that's in
Questions?
fact.
Yes.
Cool.
Jackie, I know we opened a collection center in Lafayette
Yeah.
on Saturday. How did
Yeah.
that go?
We had about 35 people drop off, which isn't huge, but yet it was 35 very grateful people that we were there. So it was really well received. I mean, would have liked to see more dropped off? Sure. But, we served that end of the county, and they were very grateful that we were there. So.
And then of the mail ballots distributed, what was our percentage of return? Because I'm assuming more ballots went out that came back.
Yeah, so if you're talking absentee, so the absentee ones are kind of more, because the mail ballot precincts, obviously if we had a 91% turnout, those all came back around 90% or so, because they didn't have any other option to vote. But the absentees is what we kept our eye on, because we knew that we had so many out there that could possibly come back. The city of St. Peter returned their absentees really high. I don't have those numbers with me, but they were probably about 90% returned absentees. North Mankato was just slightly lower. We had about 1,000 absentees out there that could have came in that didn't come in. Now remember, they don't have to use those. They could have went to the poll place, because these people could have applied for them even back in the summer going, I don't know if I'm going to be sick or quarantined or what if. But then they were fine and poll places were open, and so they may have just went to their poll place. We're still posting history, but I would imagine most of those 1,000 that were still out there didn't come back in. They went to their poll place.
It's a smaller number than I anticipated.
It really was. It started slow. I thought, we only got 30% in, and we were working like dogs, and I thought we're never gonna get them all in. But through that time, we got there. And St. Peter kind of was the highest at returning their absentees.
Other questions? Yes, Terry.
Just want to make sure I understand. If I'm,
Mhm.
and I may not be doing my math correctly, it seems to me that there's just about a 1% difference between Acklin and Brand right now.
I haven't looked at the grand total because there's some in Blue Earth County and some in, Lee Sewer County.
Sure, yeah, I'm just looking at.
If you're just
the,
looking at Nicollet County, I feel like we have a little bit high, it was at 65.65. I can't remember, but, if you're looking on the Secretary of State's website, make sure you're pulling in both or all three
yeah,
counties.
I'm just doing the race, so I assume.
Oh, then you are. So is it that high now?
Yeah, so it's
Blue
like-
Earth
it's
County-
112 vote difference.
So Blue Earth County did not have all their votes in on election night. And so they were still working on, because the state did grant us an additional 24 hours beyond if you needed it. We had everything in, and they were still working on some. I spoke to Jeff Brand over the weekend, and he said that Blue Earth County was, as of Friday or whatever, still putting some ballots in yet. But so I didn't look at the total race because I'm kind of waiting for canvassing the actual numbers out there. So yeah.
Sure, I just wanna make sure I understood.
Yep.
What it was. Okay.
Yep.
Good, Danny.
Going to that same issue, if the statutory mandate of a recount is met,
Yep.
you said that's government funded, is that a reimbursable from the state to the local county who does the work, or does that come out of our operations?
Typically, it comes out of our operations, although this is my first time with a state race for a recount. And so I will be following up on that. And I did already talk to the Secretary of State's office, and they kind of said, you know, hold on, we will give you all the directions, we'll give you all the orders after we canvass. They don't really.
They're in the same boat,
Yeah.
waiting to find out.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, and just remember that automatic recount isn't the correct terminology. The losing person still has to request it, and then it's just determined on how it is funded, either by the government or
By the party,
or
or
by the
by
party
their-
or the
by their
person. Yep. So no count is automatic. They still do have to request it.
Jack?
Mr. Chair, and one thing I forgot to mention, so in visiting the polling places, I saw some familiar faces that look like me, and some real young faces that don't look like me, look like my kids. And they were so appreciative of the training that they received from the city clerks.
Yep.
who
She
are
trains
trained
her.
by
Yep.
yourself and others.
Right.
And that is it's so good to see these younger people volunteering their time, and I believe they had a good experience, and they'll probably be back for us in the future.
Right. So we've typically had a hard time getting election judges on our own, and I think part of the problem was just that the word wasn't out there that people knew that that you could be one. So this year, you know, with the pandemic and the older generation maybe not wanting to, and we needed a whole set of backup judges. So the judges you saw working were there, but there was another whole set that was trained as backup in case this set, you know, there was, you know, people that fell ill. So we had trained a whole bunch. The Secretary of State's office did a really big push, and in fact, we had way more to choose from than we actually needed. So, and a lot of them were young people, and so that was encouraging. A lot of people wanted to be part of it, so it all turned out more smoothly than we could have ever imagined.
More questions, or? Okay, thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Well done, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ryan, commissioners meetings?
I believe there's nothing scheduled the next AMC function would be the annual meeting in December, and that's a one-day
Yep,
virtual
one
meeting.
day Zoom.
Okay.
I think there's committee meetings starting on
Yes.
Monday too.
Right.
The various subcommittees.
Okay. Okay, per diems and expenses?
Move it.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, passes. Motion to.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. Discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, passes. Okay, call the Drainage Authority meeting to order. We don't have to agenda get approved, do we? Motion and second to approve the agenda. Discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes.
Move the consent agenda, Mr. Chair.
Motion and second on the consent agenda. Discussion. Favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Passes. Hey, Jackie.
Good morning again, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The first item I have is an order to approve the redetermination for various ditches. Attached in your packet are several findings of facts regarding redeterminations for County Ditch 8A, County Ditch 35A, County Ditch 47A, County Ditch 52, County Ditch 65, 71, 75, County Ditch 78, and 78 Lateral 1, Branch 4, County Ditch 82 and 84. It's a large group. I have emailed you a map to show you the cluster of where they are. They're kind of in the northwest part. So they all kind of group together. These ditches, the reason for the redetermination is these ditches vary from the last time they were redetermined anywhere from 1913 to 1968 when I did the research on those. So the time has come for these to get redetermined. I am requesting that Mark Behrens and his group, which include Robert Hansen, Kendall Langseth, Joe Muchler, John Thompson, Dennis Disted, and Bruce Ness, be appointed as the viewers. Mark and his group, we have used him before for various other ones. He does good work. He did request to be here this morning. It is kind of a trip for him. I said that I was confident that we're happy with your work and that he didn't need to attend, but he did want to attend just to make sure that you knew that this was important to him as well. So there are several findings of facts in the packet that I would request your approval on.
Procedurally, do we need to address each one of these separately? Madam County Attorney?
I don't know that it's necessary to do each individual one. However, the person that is moving the ditches would need to clearly articulate that the reason for the redetermination is because there has been in fact a change of value and certainly a passage of time that warrants redetermination, because we are consistently, finding that the values are not consistent with current market values.
And we'll make sure we'll get that in the minutes.
Well, I would make,
Can I just one question?
yeah,
Just to confirm, it's the same team on every one of these findings? There's nothing that makes one of these unique?
Nope, we have appointed the entire team. Statute says that 3 people, 3 members will work on that ditch, which Mark will have those 3 members, but given the time of the year, some have more time than others, so we're appointing the entire team, and any group of 3 will work on each individual ditch.
And there's nothing else?
And there's nothing else different into each of those findings and orders.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
From 1913 to 68 is about 50 years, and from 68 to 2020 is another 50 years. Is that too quick to redetermine, or should those redeterminations come on a more frequent level?
Typically, they're not redetermined just for any reason. You do have to have just cause to redetermine. So depending on the future, depending on values, and maybe any changes in the land, would determine if a redetermination is needed again. So, I mean, these are clearly very old. They have not been looked at for a very long time, so.
Or evidently needed any major improvement or repairs.
Right. Actually, some of these did have improvements that were older, like the 1968. That was due to an improvement, not because the ditch was just dug in 1950 or 1968. There were improvements even back then. So, yeah, unless there's an improvement, they would get redetermined again, or any other land changes or structural changes.
And Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The other part of the request when we utilize Mr. Barron's group is that the board would also appoint Jones, is it Haig?
Haug and
And
Smith.
Smith Engineering, because they use that engineering firm to then determine the watersheds, so that should be part of the motion as well, to be clear on that appointment as well.
And the motion should mention every number, correct? Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
I would make a motion to approve the redeterminations for the following ditches. County Ditch 8A, County Ditch 35A, County Ditch 47A, County Ditch 52, County Ditch 65, County Ditch 71, County Ditch 75, County Ditch 78, County Ditch 78 Lateral 1, Branch 4, County Ditch 82, and County Ditch 84. I would also move to order the appointment of Mark Behrens, Robert Hanson, Kendall Layson, Joe Muchler, John Thompson, Dennis Distad, and Bruce Ness as the viewers, and also Jones, Howe, and Smith Engineering Firm to determine the watersheds.
Mr. Chair, if I might, or if I speak to
And I would also move to accept the findings of fact as listed for all of these, including specifically the fact that some of these ditches have not been redetermined for over 100 years, and to bring them current is an important element of this. I think I touched everything I was supposed
that
to.
we're approving the findings of fact and the orders.
The findings of fact and the orders.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this motion? Discussion. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Passes. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank
Do
you.
you have something else?
I do have a second agenda item. That was the additional item that was handed to you. This is for the bid recommendation for County Ditch 77 Lateral 2. On Wednesday, October 21st, 2020, bids were received for Nicollet County Ditch number 77 Lateral 2. The total of 3 bids were received, and they range from $266,955 and 95 cents to $325,008.59. There is a letter in your packet from ISG for more information and what their bid recommendation is. Chuck Brandel is here from ISG, and I'll have him give you a brief update on a review of the bids and what their recommendation is, and then in the end, the board will have to decide to accept or reject the bids that were given. So I'm gonna have Chuck come up.
Thank you, Jackie.
Another copy of that, because I didn't see one.
Welcome, Chuck.
Do you have one, Robert?
Good morning.
So we did receive 3 bids on the project. The engineer's estimate was $280,000. One bid was under that, one was slightly over, and another one was about $45,000 over that. We do have in our bid documents a requirement that any contractor must have 5 references in the last 5 years of work related to the work that they're doing. So in this case, agricultural tile installation, open ditch cleaning, deepening, and widening. The 2 lowest bidders did not meet the requirement from agricultural tile installation based on the references that they gave us. We also did make a few calls on the references. The low bidder, Dirt Pros, some of their references they were a sub for, so we just did not feel that they were qualified enough. Thus, we are recommending to throw out all of the bids and asking to rebid the project in a better bidding time frame, probably advertise in December, open in January, or advertise in January, open in late January, early February. A lot of the tile contractors are finishing up work right now. They're still out there working, but they're getting close. If we give them a little bit more time and they can look at their 2021 schedule, I think we should get more qualified bidders. I did talk to 2 of the affected landowners, Mr. Tim Weibel and Mr. Al Schmidt. They both said, let's wait till later 2021. let's do this right, and get a contractor that has experience doing this work. Tim Weibel did ask that we don't do the work in the spring when his area is fairly wet. We could set up the bid to not start until a July 1st timeframe and have a completion date at the end of the year. The bid that we did have a completion date of September of 2021. If we rebid the project, I'd ask we move that completion date to December of 2021. So my recommendation is to reject all of the bids and rebid the project.
And I had conversations with the same two parties, and they're both fine, especially if we wait till after harvest of this coming crop year.
I don't know if we could set it up to wait till after harvest, but at least wait till the drier end of the season.
Well, there would be more crop damage to pay if we did it in
Yeah, and
July or
we
August.
did have that some of that factored in, but
I'm in favor of his recommendation.
I'll move that we reject the bids received on this project and rebid the project in 2021.
Second.
Motion and a second, any more discussion?
And what happens if nothing comes in any different?
Can we talk about it again, right?
I'm gonna let these contractors know that they're not qualified at this point. They've got to figure out how to get some more experience. Even if they could get some private tiling experience and show that would help. They didn't have that, in my opinion. So,
Will we get more companies to bid since we have a further out time frame?
we should. We should.
More questions, comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, passes. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you. Just one more thing, I
Yeah.
did send, some updates, newsletters to staff on, some of the active construction projects. We are supposed to report on those every month when there's active construction, so just a heads up, if you wanna see those, let us know.
Anything else you wanna share with us today, or any
That's
questions
it.
for Chuck? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Motion and a
Second.
second to adjourn, all in favor, or discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.